Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Very important developments yesterday, today, and the day before. First, Putin met Witkoff and Kushner in Moscow to discuss the revised peace plan. Remember the 28-point initial peace plan put together by supposedly Trump, but it was Kushner and others. And I have to tell you from the very beginning, this is very ridiculous. You have Kushner, Witkoff, and then you have Zelensky. Anyway, so they met. Putin met Witkoff and Kushner, and what they agreed or disagreed. The meeting lasted 5 hours. The Western media claims Putin showed up late at a meeting. Late, like really late. And they claim he was supposed to show up at 2 p.m., but he showed up at 8 p.m. Well, I will show you what the evidence is. Putin tells Europe, if you want war, we are ready right now. Let's get it on. But the war will be swift and possibly, you will lose, and possibly there will be no one left to negotiate anything after that. That means total destruction. Putin also says we are going to cut Ukraine off from access to the Black Sea. That's exactly what I said many times before. The Russians will not allow NATO to have, or Ukraine for this matter, to have access to the Black Sea. Why? Geopolitics, my friends. So, Mykolaiv and Odessa will be taken by Russia, Putin said. And I'm going to show you how surprised these guys in Europe are about it. But why did Putin say that? Well, if you engage in terrorism in the Black Sea, I will cut your access to the Black Sea. The problem is these operations, the 3 tankers that were hit by we don't know who, even though 2 were confirmed by the Ukrainians themselves that they did it. The third one on the Russian, they say it was not us. I think it was operated by the Brits, or at least organized. Then another big development, Witkoff went to Russia, and on the way back he was supposed to meet with Zelensky. Jewish together. Well, that meeting was cancelled. Witkoff cancelled the meeting, so they didn't show up. And the Americans tell the Europeans to hand back the frozen Russian assets to Russia. That's a big development. And the last one, which is very important, the Europeans, the Brits, I would say, through the Ukrainians, blow up the Druzhba pipeline again. The pipeline was remotely blown up, and that feeds Europe, not England. So you might know who is at the origin, and other people are ecstatic about it. So we're going to discuss all these articles here. I have more for the next video though. So let's start with the first one. And this is how they portray the meeting between Putin and Kushner, Witkoff. And these are Americans, right? Yep. It's the same thing how the American delegation showed up in the Peace of Versailles. Go and check it out, the Trianon. Go and check it out what Clemenceau said, the president of France, when she saw the American delegation led by Woodrow Wilson over there. He said, who are these guys? Are these Americans? Guess who were the nucleus of the US delegation? Yeah, Witkoff, Kushner, the same guys. All right, let's start with the first one. New Voice of Ukraine. This is what they say. Why? This is December 3rd, 2025. They tried to show that Putin is a piece of and all that. He might be. The problem is, this is psychological warfare, if true. Now, Putin shows up late to Witkoff-Kushner meeting. First, this guy should not be here, or this guy right here, just to tell you that. This is Jewish, and they deal with the Jewish president of Ukraine. Who do you think these guys will back? And first, why is this guy over here? What expertise he has? I tell you what expertise he has. He is a son-in-law of a certain, belonging to a certain kind of group. That's all. That's all his expertise he needs. He was appointed from nothing to senior advisor to the Middle East in Trump's first administration. From nothing, from building buildings in New York City, he was appointed senior advisor. Where did he work as a senior advisor with geopolitics and all that in the Middle East? Beats me, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. So, what do they say? What happened? And I'm going to show you what really happened. All right, Russian dictator arrived several hours late to the December 2 meeting with U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and son-in-law of U.S. President Jared Kushner. Putin was still delivering remarks at the VTB Russia Calling Investment Forum at the time the meeting was supposed to begin. Offering an extended speech on the state of Russia's economy. So that's what it is, they say. All right, Kremlin spokesman Peskov has told reported that the talks with the U.S. representatives would begin after. You see, this is very important, after. People who did mathematics, arithmetics know exactly what's going on. After 5 p.m. EET, but the meeting did not start until closer to 8 p.m. 8 p.m. is after 5 p.m. He didn't say at, he said after. You understand? So that's the first giveaway. You remember, in mathematics we say, well, this number belongs to these groups, including the number, you know, as a parenthesis, square parenthesis or round parenthesis. I think the square parenthesis is that, and the parenthesis, the round parenthesis doesn't include the number. So here is kind of the same thing. He said after 5 could be 5:20, 5:50, could 9, 11 p.m., 11:25 p.m. In the same day, he said on the 2nd, which is still until midnight, after p.m., so that means after p.m. anytime until before midnight. So 23, 59, 59. Got it? So these guys are just pieces of garbage, and I'm going to show you something else. And they gave they gave it away anyway. Let me show you the initial article regarding setting the meeting. This is Sputnik from yesterday. Putin to receive Witkoff in Kremlin after 2 o'clock GMT. After could be, as I said, 14:01 or could be 23:59:59. All right. Putin's meeting with the U.S. delegation lasted nearly 5 hours. What's interesting about it is, according to Russians, this is the first time when we had concrete proposals to discuss. Clear, and the West, some baboons in Europe say, well, Putin rejected Trump's peace proposal. This is a proposal. It's a plan. It's not like I impose it to you. You breathe it forth. I tell you what I have. I tell you with what I agree. I tell you with what I disagree. You bring it back. I give you a counter proposal. You go back to your boss and you guys decide and then you come back. It's a process. I explained this in many videos. But these guys think, okay, we're going to have a ceasefire right now. Everybody, nobody shoots. And then we'll see what's going on, okay? Because this is Hollywood. Life doesn't work that way. If you want to have a thing done very well, that's the way you do it, back and forth. And let me show you what the Russians say about the meeting. Basically, they keep their lips tight. The meeting between Russian leader and U.S. President Special Envoy and son-in-law lasted nearly 5 hours. All right. The meeting focused on Trump's peace plan. Also present on the Russian side was Dmitriev described the meeting between Witkoff, Kushner and Putin as productive. You see, that's what it is. That's all. That's President Volodymyr Zelensky said that the U.S. delegation consisting of Witkoff and Kushner, 2 Jews plus the third one right here, will convey signals to Ukraine. Remember this one, immediately after their meeting with Putin in the Kremlin. Next one. Putin-Witkoff talks constructive and very useful. All right, so that's why I said no compromise have been found as of yet. We discussed the substance, not specific wording and solutions. The parties see enormous potential for cooperation. Some American proposals are acceptable to Russia, others are not. He stated, noting that the issue of territory was also discussed. Asked whether peace is closer or further away following the talks, Ushakov said, definitely not further. So, productive. That's what it is. Next one. Kremlin denies claims Putin turned down American-Ukraine proposal. Why? Because this is what they explain. The wording that the Russian President Volodymyr Zelensky Putin rejected the US peace plan on Ukraine would not be correct, Peskov said. And I'm quoting, no, it would not be correct. The point is that a direct exchange of views took place for the first time yesterday. And, as was said yesterday, some things were accepted while others were described as unacceptable. We already know what those are. This is a normal working process, a search for compromise, Peskov said. You understand? And this is what he said. We will adhere to the principle of silence, and we hope that our American counterparts will also adhere to this principle, Peskov told reporters when asked about the technical aspects of talks between the Russian president and Steve Witkoff. We proceeded from the fact that in this case it is better for these negotiations to be conducted in silence. You got it? There you go. Yes, a phone conversation is possible at any time. It is possible to organize one quickly. When asked whether a phone call between Putin and Trump was possible in the near future. All right, so that's what the Russians say. It's going to take some time, and it's not going to be a megaphone of diplomacy, all right, like he says here. Moscow is not a supporter of megaphone diplomacy, and the US adheres to this as well. No, it doesn't. But hey, he was just nice. He was diplomatic. Next one. Putin, Russia ready for war with Europe, will target tankers of countries helping Ukraine. That's one. Second one. Russia ready for war with Europe now, says Putin. Putin says Russia is ready for war if Europe wants it. I'm going to give you details of all this. Putin warns Europe, if you want war, then Russia will defeat you. And we have here, Putin justifies future grabs of Ukraine south. And Sweden on Putin's latest remarks about war with Europe. We know they pose a real threat. All right, so let's start with the first one. Russia ready for war with Europe will target tankers of countries helping Ukraine. What do you mean? Well, Russian tankers were targeted in the Black Sea, so they say someone else did it. We will do the same thing to you. Because the Russians are not baboons, and they know that the Ukrainian drones, Magura 5 and all that, when they attack the the tankers, there were operations organized and so on by and financed by the Brits, who are smiling very, very wildly. Why? Because that would, they think, destroy the peace process. And Putin said, you know what? Like in friendship, reciprocity. You hit us, we're going to do the same thing to you. So if you think that's okay, we're going to do it to you too. And the other thing, the Europe, let me tell you what Putin said. President Putin warned Europe on Tuesday that it would face swift defeat if it went to war with Russia, and dismissed European proposals on Ukraine just before a Kremlin meeting with US President Donald Trump, powerful envoys. Two Jews representing America. That's fantastic. All right, so let's see what's going on over here. All right. They are on the side of war. About the European powers, we can clearly see that all these changes are aimed at only one thing: to block the entire peace process altogether, to make such demands which are absolutely unacceptable for Russia. And here, if Europe, and I'm quoting, suddenly wants to start a war with us and starts it, all right, Putin said, then it would end so swiftly for Europe that there would be no one to negotiate with in Europe. Putin also threatened to sever Ukraine's access to the sea. I said this many times before. That's going to happen without this prerequisite. In response to drone attacks on tankers of Russia's shadow fleet in the Black Sea. You got it? So where is that located? Let me show you. This is where they are going to take over. This is Nikolaev Oblast, or Nikolaev, and this is Odessa. I said Putin is not going to allow this to be NATO. They already allowed this to be NATO right here, the baboons in Romania and Bulgaria down there. So he's not going to allow this one. This is the Crimean Peninsula. So no, my friends, let me show you a better map maybe. We are in the Black Sea, right there. So this is going to go away, because from here to here, all this is NATO. And they want Marea Nostri. They want our sea. That's what they want. I'm talking about these guys in the West, the Anglo-Saxon. They want this Marea Nostri, as this was Rome's Marea Nostri, our sea. And this, they try to turn it right here, the Baltic Sea, into Marea Nostri, NATO. So they want to take over. And there's going to be right here, the Caspian Sea, Marea Nostri. So this is what they're talking about, this area in here, or right here. This is the area. And why? You attack our tankers, we're going to prevent you from ever having any drones coming from here. And if the drones come from Romania, then we're going to smack those imbeciles as well. All right, so that's the first one. Second one, I'm looking for different wordage, because these guys give you information just a little bit here and there. Russia ready for war with Europe now. So if you're good guys, let's do it. President Putin declared on Tuesday that Russia is prepared for war with European powers if they seek conflict. So if you see conflict, we're ready. While emphasizing that Moscow does not want such an outcome. All right. So what do we have? If Europe wants to fight war, we are ready now. And Putin escalated his rhetoric. So only Europe can escalate actions, but Putin cannot escalate the rhetoric against European nations. The Europeans do not have powerful agenda. They are on the side of war. That's what he said. All right, so next one. Putin says Russia is ready for war if Europe wants it. And what exactly he says? We are not planning to go to war, but if Europe wants to and starts, we are ready right now. They are on the side of war. All right, so next one. Putin warns, pop up the same thing. It's the same information here as the other one. And this is what interesting is. If Europe suddenly wants to start a war with us and starts it, it would end so swiftly for Europe that Russia would have no one left to negotiate with. Putin used the Russian word for war, all right, not conflict or special operation. All right, so that's why he also suggested that the war in Ukraine was not a full-blown war and that Russia was acting in a surgical manner which would not be repeated in a direct confrontation with European powers. I told you that. They will not do the same thing, especially with Poland, Baltic states, and everybody else who had a big mouth. And this is how the Institute for the Study of War gets that reaction of Putin to the guys in the West destroying or attacking tankers in the Black Sea. Not in the English Channel, no. Imagine if there would be 3 tankers, I know, British, French, and German, blown up in the English Channel. What do you think will happen? Without any evidence, they will say it was the Russians. Let alone will be like, we are at war, we were attacked. Now, in this case, Turkey was attacked. Turkey is a NATO country. Why? It was in their economic zone. That's what it was, strictly Turkish. And no problem. The 2 tankers were, I think, owned by the Turks under an African country's flag. And the third one was Russian, only the third one. Now, could that be a false flag operation done by the Russians to justify that? Yeah, but I think the Russians did not really need that. He's like a bear, like a tiger, like a lion. He just walks in and grabs it. I don't need to give you any justification. I'm not going to give you the justification, oh, narco-terrorist, but they have oil. I'm not going to give you that baboon. Or I want Greenland because I can keep them safer, and maybe other countries want to take over Greenland. Okay, we understand? So let's see what this liar spends on fire say. Putin justifies future grabs of Ukraine's south. Yes, I'm talking about this. You strike our cargo in the Black Sea right here, and not only you destroy it in this area, we are going to prevent it. Basically, that's what's going on here. And let's see what these guys are saying, but maybe I show up too, right there, cuckoo, bow. Russian dictator is likely creating information conditions to justify potential seizure of Odessa and Mykolaiv Oblast, even though Russia now has not capability to do so. So relax then. Putin claimed that in response to this December 2nd attack on the Russian tanker, the most radical reaction from Russia would be to cut Ukraine off from Black Sea. Analysts consider that a threat to seize Ukraine territory in Odessa and Mykolaiv Oblast. Of course. Yeah, don't do that, man. Don't do it. Next one. Sweden on Putin's latest remarks about war with Europe. We know they pose a real threat. Well, don't blow my things in the Black Sea, and there's no threat. Don't threaten us, otherwise we will destroy you. So again, I thought that guys in Sweden are smart, but I guess, their politicians are the representatives of the people after all. Sweden, as a state located close to Russia, recognizes that Moscow poses a real threat and must be deterred. Swedish Foreign Minister Maria Malmer Stenergard on the sidelines of Papapap. We know, and especially us who are living close to Russia, that they pose. Really? Sweden is talking about Russia? A Russian threat? The Russians can talk about the Swedish threat. And this is what we need to constrain them in every possible way. How about regime change? That's part of every possible way. How about Putin assassination? That's every possible way. Okay. All right. This person, the foreign minister, said that this context, she has come to the conclusion that who's we, need to step up on our own military investments. This is an important meeting today to discuss the individual deliveries of the goals. That means they're also owned by the big profiteers. Banking systems, military industrial complex, whatever that is, arms manufacturing companies together with generals and other baboons. And then you got the energy sector, the energy industries, the guys with the natural resources, what Russia has. Oh, surprise, surprise. All right. So this is how they look at Putin's claims. Oh, we are threatened. We have to arm ourselves. Good job. Yeah. And if you probably look, you're going to find out that Miss Rebentraum, whatever her name is, probably was helped and promoted by the same interests that now she's going to try to feed. All right. Let's see how these guys called off the meeting between Zelensky and Witkoff. Witkoff-Zelensky meeting cancelled, according to media. The Ukrainian leader earlier said that he expected signals from the US after talks with Russian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Right there. On Tuesday, journalist Alex Rofoglu, that must be Turkish or maybe something else, who writes from the Kiev Post, initially reported citing sources that Zelensky is slated to meet in Brussels tonight with the US officials. Hours later, however, he said that he had been a change of plans and that the Brussels meetings is called off and Zelensky is returning home, without elaborating on the reason. A plane apparently carrying Witkoff made no stopovers in the EU after leaving Russia, flying directly back to the US. Well, it doesn't mean that they cannot be on the phone, and I think the son-in-law has a loose mouth as well. Zelenskyy-Witkoff-Kushner meeting called off. You see, Witkoff-Kushner, three Jews. Zelensky, Witkoff, Kushner. They decide the fate of Ukraine, or they think in the context of the Americans, discussing with the only European guy, which is Putin. Now, are these facts? Am I wrong for providing you the evidence or the evident reality, which is Witkoff is Jewish, Kushner is Jewish. They represent us, all the Americans, to discuss with another Jewish person who is what? Zelensky? And on the other hand, you have Putin. So I think it's 3 against 1. Don't you think? Now I have to remind you that I made a video a while ago. In Ukraine, I think there's about 53,000 Jews. 53,000. of a population of about 40 million. So I think it's 0.0 something. Now, and they have Jewish president, used to prime minister, now defense minister, Yermak and all. Yermak, Shmihal, Reznikov, was, what's his name, Zelensky, all these guys on a population of 0.00, all of them out there. Is that overrepresentation? DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion? No, because then they identify as white. You know how it is. Anyway, so and that's over there. In the United States of America, you have 2 of 2. So 2 represent America. They are maybe 3%, the population, total population of Jewish population, mostly in New York, Florida, and Savannah, Georgia, or something. Anyway, so just so you know. So they are over there. There's 3%. In 3%, they are represented 100% at the American envoy discussing with Putin. This guy, Witkoff, right here, he was appointed as this guy, as the U.S. envoy to the Middle East. Why? You know why. For the same reason this guy was appointed the senior advisor. For the same reason. So this guy from the Middle East, now he deals with Putin and Zelensky. Russia is not in the Middle East, and neither is Ukraine. Therefore, overrepresentation. Now, these are facts. You don't like the fact? You are very, very much not on the side of the truth. Why? Because you think that certain things will be observed and the dots will be connected, and you can't connect dots in this one. Remember? It was Dave Chappelle, was it? Dave Chappelle one time at the Saturday Night Live show, which is garbage, on Christmas or something like this, like a few years ago. Remember when he said, well, if you have a bunch of Italians, a group of Italians together, you call it mafia. If you have a group of black people, African Americans, you call it a gang. But you have a group of Jews somewhere, you call it a coincidence. That's how you're supposed to view this, because we love truth, all right? And let me tell you what's going on here with the Russian assets. US tells European Union to hand back frozen Russian assets. Well, because it was Denmark, right, who said, Denmark or Belgium? Belgium said they will not hand over those assets, $140 billion, to the European Union to use it for Ukraine war. The bloc wants to use the funds to back a reparation loan to Ukraine. US officials want the EU to return Russia's frozen assets once it signs a peace deal with Ukraine, contradicting the bloc's plans to use them to finance Kiev, Politico reported. All right, EU lenders want to issue a 140 billion euros, $160 billion reparations loan to Kiev using frozen Russian funds as collateral. You got it? That's what they tried to do. And we have the guys that don't want to give it, which are the guys in Belgium. All right, next one. Ukrinform. This is the last topic, which is very important. Not that the other ones were not. But, you know, there's levels of importance. Druzhba oil pipeline blown up in Russia. All right, this is today, the 3rd of December. So remember, Druzhba oil pipeline is providing oil to Hungary, Czech Republic, Germany, but not Great Britain or England. Who blew it? The Ukrainians. All right, the same thing as the Nord Stream pipelines. They didn't affect the Brits or the Americans. No, they celebrated. It affected only the Germans. Do you understand? Do you understand who's who, what's what? A little bit. I mean, if you want to connect the dots, and you are allowed to connect the dots in this matter, not in the previous one. So why do they do this? That's war. Why? Is it because Orban went to Moscow? I think so. This is a direct attack on Hungary. On the first night of winter in Russia, an explosion occurred in the Druzhba oil pipeline through which Russian oil continues to supply to some European countries, fueling the aggressor's financial and military capabilities and destroying those European Union citizens. So European Union, NATO is attacked. It's survival, right? All right, the attack on the oil pipeline was carried out near the village of Kazinsky-Vilsky on the Terarokh-Lipensk section of the pipeline. According to the source of military intelligence, remote-controlled explosives and additional combustible mixture were used to destroy the oil pipeline in order to achieve greater combustion. Got it? All right. So they did like this again right here. On August 22nd, Ukraine's struck the, again, Druzhba oil pipeline. In August 13, again, the oil pipeline. I think it was attacked 4 times. This is the 5th time. Not only the pipeline, but also the pumping station and the distribution center. So that's not good for the Hungarians and all that. But hey, we are friends. We want this kind of people, this kind of government to be part of the European Union. I think they fit the description. Terrorist criminals, that's, you know, they kind of fit. In the Black Sea, Druzhba pipeline, don't feed me with, well, it stops the war, fueling the coffers of Putin himself. Well, then Putin can strike whomever he wants in Europe, whomever backs Ukraine, under the same rule. You and your money, you finance Kiev, and you attack me to stop me from warring. I'm going to be doing the same thing with you. Reciprocity, as in friendship. Russia's Druzhba pipeline, which feeds Europe, was remotely blown up. And again, this is what they say, and I'm going to show you, it's a video over there, and we're not going to go over that. And again, they tell you in the 28th, they told you what they did. So let's see what the Druzhba pipeline feeds, and I'm going to show you on the map. All right. Already. All right, here is the Druzhba pipeline this guy talking about right here. Right, going here, Friendship Druzhba is right here. Friendship, right here, it splits in 2. So in Belarus, so it comes right here. This is Ukraine, this is Belarus, this is Poland. It splits right here in Belarus, and one goes through Ukraine, goes right here to Slovakia, goes to Hungary, and if I said it goes to Czech Republic right there, it goes to Poland, and it goes to Germany, and that's it. That's it. It ends right here, you see? There's no Great Britain around. So maybe it can, from Karlsruhe, goes to France, but I'm not sure about that one. So you got Germany, you got the Czech Republic, you got Poland, you got Slovakia, you don't have, maybe you can, that's a different one right here, but it splits from it. In Austria, this is in Hungary, this is the Druzhba, and they struck it probably right here in Russia. All right, so on the let's go to the other map right here. It comes from here, it splits in Belarus, one goes down to Slovakia, the other one goes to Poland, Gdansk, or Danzig, how you want to call it, goes Slovakia, Hungary, Czech Republic, splits in Austria, Germany, to Karlsruhe, somewhere in this area. Karlsruhe, right here. Karlsruhe goes to Paris. All right, my friends, so this is a terrorist act again, and this affects Hungary. How will Hungary react? I think this is the declaration of war. I will explain you why. If I buy my groceries here in this store, and I feed my family, and I can afford buying from there because it's cheaper than in the Americans, they would give me 3 or 4 times premium. If I buy from Americans, I can't take my family to vacations, I can't buy toys to my kids, I can't buy hats, I can't buy guns, I cannot. Why? Because the premium that I pay to the Americans for the oil gonna go there. Instead of paying cheaper right here at this grocery store, and the money I save, I can afford everything else. So this is Hungary, getting Russian oil or the premium American oil. The Americans gave a, how do you call it, a waiver. They say we allow Hungary to buy from the Russians for at least 1 more year, until the war ends, obviously. That's why Orban went to Hungary, because Trump allows Hungary, because Hungary is an independent country like everybody else. But Hungary is smarter than the Romanians, for instance, right? Than Romania. So what happened? That's what happened. So now these guys destroy my capability of having a good life that I provide to my citizens. You are my enemy, because you make me buy it at 3 or 4 times more than I will have maybe my children starving. So that is a national security threat. As Peter Szijjártó, the foreign minister of Hungary, said, this is a national threat. national security threat. That threaten our survival. So what does it mean? War. Well, we'll see if these guys will do anything like this. They will talk, the Hungarians, and they will probably implement certain policies, but the European Union, and especially the guys who are not affected, which are the Brits and the French. Why? The French, most of their garbage comes with nuclear power plants. I think 100% electricity comes from there. But oil is used in other things too, right? To run trucks and so on. So what are we going to do, my friends? Well, this gang in Kiev, I think is a terrorist gang. And unfortunately, is it used and organized by another terrorist gang located across from the English Channel. You can't go around it. You can try to push it. It's in my defense, the Russians invaded us. We have to defend ourselves. If you start a history in 2022, in 24th of February, yes, it could look like that, but it's ignoring historical events, facts, and so on, and everything starts from 1991, just so you know. So, my friends, everything is based on I'm strong, I will punch you in the face. And Putin said, I will do it. And if we're going to do it, it's going to be a swift move, and we will have nobody to negotiate with. That means we're going to raise everything. That's it. We're going to go full-blown war, not military operation, dancing with the stars or something. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.